Welcome back. Now, government's plan B to avert a tariff crisis includes diverting exports to alternative markets and Treasury-backed tax incentives. Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Pak Stau, however, has already highlighted that exporting more to China is unlikely to make up for the country's U.S. tariff pain. In the meantime, President Ramaphosa has urged for calm amid the tariff storm. Business Day's political editor, Hajra Omarjeefor, covered the DTIC's briefing on the state's Plan B measures. She joins us with her take on how the current climate on tariffs is playing out on the political scene. Hajra, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. And let's start with those response measures and your reading of the whole situation. Was it enough or could more be done?
Well, it's never going to be enough. The truth is that the United States is our third biggest trading partner next to China and the European Union. And what that means is that in the short term, at least, sectors like the automobile as well as the agricultural sector will take a hard knock. However, government is doing all it can to give South African business, especially those sectors, kind of a safe harbor. It's implemented a block exemption, which will allow rival exporters to coordinate infrastructure, logistics, and market intelligence in order to reroute what they cannot send to China, to the United States, to different markets temporarily as we try to renegotiate a bilateral agreement with the United States. I think it's worth mentioning as well that so far the United States has implemented a 10% across the board tariff increase on trade imports. And that so far has harmed the U.S. economy most, with the jobs in the U.S. down both in June and July. We sent a formal proposal to the United States last month, as per the direction that they gave us in terms of the framework. We have not yet received a response from them. It is U.S. President Donald Trump that imposed that August 1st, now August 8th deadline, which is this week. But he's got over 180 countries in order to negotiate with, and he still hasn't gotten to South Africa.
And let's talk about that. How does South Africa then move forward? How does it position itself at this moment? Government saying, of course, that talks are ongoing. Do we have the right people leading those talks?
Well, we definitely need an ambassador in Washington in order to be able to have a senior diplomat knock on doors in order to get the meetings that the Department of Trade and Industry needs in order to get responses. We have not received a response from the U.S. government to the latest proposal. We sent them around energy as well as agriculture last month. Ronald Lamola, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, says talks are at an advanced stage to appoint that ambassador, but it hasn't been that easy because, let's not forget, we did have an ambassador, and that was Ibrahim Rasool, and the U.S. kicked him out. So you can't just simply appoint a new one the next day.
Now, relations between SA and the U.S. haven't been great for quite some time now, Hajra, and I wonder what it'll take to fix things and whether SA will be able to get a beneficial deal with the U.S.
And I think South Africa needs to take some culpability in that. For the last 10 years, since the Lady R saga, where the United States accused South Africa of sending arms to Russia in order to help it with its invasion with Ukraine, those were false claims. It was considered economic sabotage. South Africa has done very little to rebuild diplomatic relations to Russia. In fact, Rasul was seen as a pro-Israel diplomat in the United States, and the world's support for South Africa and its case at the International Criminal Court over what Israel is doing in terms of an alleged genocide in Gaza has also strained tensions. So we've got to take some responsibility for not putting our own diplomatic interests first, because we're now facing a heavy economic cost.
And with that being said, do we then have room to negotiate for a trade deal? Will we even be able to get an agreement with the US?
Well, as President Ramaphosa said, it's not in the United States' interest to not have a bilateral deal with South Africa. While we can consider AGOA dead,
Yeah.
a large part of the automobiles manufactured in South Africa go to the United States. So the price of cars will increase in the US. He also came out to reiterate that we have counter-cyclical agricultural cycles. So for example, when we grow oranges in South Africa, it is another season in the United States. So we are not in direct competition. So it's going to raise the cost of living in the United States, and it is not in their interest to negotiate with us. I'll raise another important issue, and this is something the US wants, and that is the importation of LNG gas.
Yeah.
It is said South Africa will run out of LNG gas in the next 3 years, and the United States wants us to import LNG gas either through its Mozambique pipeline or through ships from the United States. So it is also in the US's interest to have a bilateral trade agreement with South Africa, which I think will come. Realistically, the United States only has trade deals with the European Union, with some countries in the Middle East, as well with China. It does not have trade agreements with the vast majority of the over 180 countries around the world. Unfortunately, we, according to Trump, fall in the below 90 of those 180 countries, so we assume they will get to us eventually.
All right, let's leave it there. Hajra, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. That was Business Day's political editor, Hajra Omarjeefor.